Hi everyone, it's Agnieszka from 5 Minute Language. Welcome to my channel. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and give this video a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. If you're new here, this channel is all about sharing tips on learning English and learning other foreign languages in general. So make sure you subscribe, and also if you found me on TikTok, let me know in the comments below. So this video is about the most common mistakes that English learners make, and I'm also going to tell you how to fix them. So let's get started. So the first mistake that I often hear English learners make is not knowing how to use the present perfect correctly. So sometimes learners use it when they're not supposed to use it, and sometimes when they are supposed to use it, they don't use it. So an example of that is, for example, when people say, I live in London since 2012. They often use the present simple tense, but actually what you need here is the present perfect. When you talk about something that started in the past and is also true in the present, you need to use the present perfect. So the correct version of this sentence will be, I have lived in London since 2012. Another mistake that I often hear English learners make is when they talk about something that happened in the past, but that also has consequences in the present. So for example, the question, did you sprain your ankle? If somebody's ankle is currently sprained, then you should use the present perfect because you're talking about an action that happened in the past, but also has consequences in the present. So you should say, have you sprained your ankle? Another mistake I often hear people make is confusing a and the. So the indefinite article and the definite article. So the indefinite article should be used when you're talking about something that isn't specific. So for example, could you pass me an apple? I want any apple. I don't want a particular apple, just any apple. If I say I want the apple, then I mean I want this specific apple, maybe the apple that I put on the table. Okay, the third mistake I often hear people make is ignoring phrasal verbs. So often people will learn English, they will learn lots of vocabulary, lots of verbs and nouns and adjectives, but they will ignore phrasal verbs because phrasal verbs are quite overwhelming. There are so many of them and there are so many different variants of the same verb using different prepositions, so it's quite confusing and they are quite difficult to memorize. But actually native speakers use phrasal verbs all the time, and the more phrasal verbs you use, the more fluent and native you will sound. So I definitely recommend that you spend a good amount of time on learning phrasal verbs every week. I have 2 courses which you can check out in the description box that teach you phrasal verbs. So the first course is for intermediate learners. It teaches you the 100 most essential phrasal verbs. And another course which is for advanced learners that teaches you 100 advanced phrasal verbs. So make sure you check them out. Okay, the fourth mistake is using the past perfect tense unnecessarily. So sometimes when talking about a series of events, English learners will want to use the past perfect to show that one action happened first and it was followed by another action. So for example, I had gone shopping and then I went home. So often people will say that because they want to indicate that going shopping happened first. But actually you don't need to do that because it's clear from context that you went shopping first and then you went home. So you only need to say, I went shopping and then I went home, because it's clear what happened first and what happened next. You can use the past perfect if it's not clear from context. So for example, I had already done my shopping when you arrived. You need that because you need to indicate that the action of doing shopping had already happened in the past before the person arrived. Okay, and the final mistake that I often hear people make is using the wrong preposition with different verbs. So often each verb will go with a different preposition depending on what you're talking about. And I'm not talking about phrasal verbs, I'm just talking about standard verbs. So for example, when using the verb arrive, many people make the mistake of using the preposition to. For example, I arrived to London, because that's the exact translation from many languages. But actually what you need to say is I arrived in London. Similarly, when using the verb depend, many people make the mistake of saying to depend from something instead of to depend on something. And that's again because in many languages, that is the phrase that they're translating directly into English. So remember that when learning verbs, you also need to look at different prepositions that they go with and look at examples of sentences that contain those verbs and prepositions as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, check out my courses in the description box below, and follow me on TikTok as well for short, fun videos with English learning tips. And I'll see you next time. Bye.